The meeting that changed everything. Victoria Hayes adjusted her blazer for the third time in 5 minutes.
The latest test results are concerning.
The conference room on the
treatment
38th
plan
floor
immediately.
felt smaller than usual, packed with 12 strategists waiting to present their quarterly campaigns. She had spent weeks perfecting her pitch for the Luxe Beauty account, knowing this presentation could make or break her career at Sterling Media Group. The unexpected reunion. Rebecca Chen, the department head, stood at the front of the room. Next up, we have Victoria Hayes presenting the Luxe Beauty social campaign strategy. And joining us today as consultant is Nathan Pierce, creative director from our New York office. Victoria's pen clattered onto the glass table. Nathan Pierce. The name hit her like a physical blow. She looked up and there he was, walking through the door with that same confident stride she remembered from college. 6 years had sharpened his features, added sophistication to his style, but those intense hazel eyes remained unchanged. When past meets present. Nathan's gaze swept the room and stopped on her. For one brief second, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Recognition? Then it vanished behind a professional mask. Victoria forced herself to breathe. She stood and clicked to her first slide, determined not to let ancient history derail her career. Our strategy focuses on authentic storytelling through micro-influencers rather than celebrity endorsements. Market research shows that consumers aged 25 to 40 respond better to relatable content. The first strike. She was 3 slides in when Nathan interrupted. Stop right there. His voice carried the same authority it had when he challenged her in Professor Martinez's marketing class. You're building an entire campaign on the assumption that authenticity matters more than reach. Where's your data supporting that claim? Heat rushed to Victoria's cheeks. If you look at slide 7, I have comprehensive case studies from 3 similar campaigns. Then start with slide 7, Nathan said coolly. Don't waste time with pretty graphics when you haven't established your foundation. This is basic strategy, not creative fluff. Rivalry rekindled. The words stung more than they should have. Rebecca shifted uncomfortably. Around the table, colleagues avoided eye contact. Victoria had worked in advertising for 5 years, built campaigns that won awards, and here was Nathan Pierce treating her like a first-year student who hadn't done her homework. She clicked forward to slide 7, walking through her research with forced calm. But Nathan kept interrupting, picking apart her methodology, questioning her sources, challenging every conclusion. 20 minutes stretched into 45. The air in the room grew thick with tension. The breaking point. Furthermore, Nathan continued, your influencer selection criteria completely ignores engagement quality. You're focused on follower counts when you should be analyzing comment sentiment and share rates. This kind of surface-level thinking might work for small brands, but Luxe Beauty expects excellence. Something inside Victoria snapped. Maybe it was the condescending tone. Maybe it was the echo of every argument they'd had in college. Maybe it was deeper than that, rooted in feelings she thought she had buried years ago. She set down her clicker with deliberate precision. You know what? If my work is so inadequate, perhaps you should present your own strategy instead of tearing down mine. I'm sure your approach is flawless, just like it was in college when you took credit for my entire campaign concept in Professor Martinez's class. Secrets revealed. The room went silent. Nathan's expression shifted from superiority to something harder to read. That's not what happened. Really? Victoria gathered her materials. Because I remember staying up 3 nights straight developing that viral marketing concept. I remember sharing it with you because I thought we were study partners. And I remember you presenting it as your own the next day. You don't understand what was really going on, Nathan said, standing. I understand perfectly, Victoria replied. Conference room. Now. We need to have this conversation somewhere private. Trapped together. Rebecca started to protest, but Victoria was already heading for the door. She heard Nathan following her into the hallway, his footsteps quick on the polished floor. "Don't walk away from me," Nathan called. "We need to talk about this professionally." "There's nothing professional about humiliating someone in front of their entire department," Victoria shot back. She spotted a storage room door propped open and ducked inside, needing just a moment to compose herself before she said something she would truly regret. Nathan followed her in. "Listen, about college, there were circumstances you don't know about." As he stepped across the threshold, the heavy door swung shut behind him with a solid click. They both froze. No way out. Victoria reached for the handle and pulled. Nothing. She tried again, putting her full weight into it. The door refused to budge. "Step aside," Nathan said, moving past her. He grabbed the handle and yanked hard. The door didn't even rattle. A small digital display beside the doorframe glowed red, "Emergency protocol activated. Maintenance notified. Estimated response time, 2 to 4 hours. "You have got to be kidding me," Victoria muttered. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Of course. The storage rooms were located in the building's dead zone, something she had learned during her first week at Stirling. Face to face. Nathan checked his own phone and swore under his breath. They stood in the narrow room, surrounded by shelves stacked with office supplies and archived files. The single overhead light cast shadows across Nathan's face as he turned to look at her. "So," he said quietly. "I guess we have time to talk now." Victoria leaned against the shelves, crossing her arms. "We have nothing to talk about." "We have 6 years to talk about," Nathan countered. His professional mask was slipping, revealing something raw underneath. Starting with the truth about what really happened in college. The air between them felt electric. Outside, life continued normally. Inside this locked room, their carefully constructed walls were about to crumble, the silence between them. Victoria stared at the locked door, refusing to look at Nathan. 2 to 4 hours trapped in a storage room with the man who had stolen her work and now humiliated her in front of her colleagues. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. Nathan moved to the opposite side of the small room, putting maximum distance between them. The space was barely 10 feet square, making even that small separation feel inadequate. He loosened his tie and unbuttoned his collar, and Victoria noticed the tension in his shoulders. "You really believe I stole your campaign idea?" Nathan said finally. It was not a question. "I was there," Victoria replied, keeping her voice steady. "I shared my entire concept with you during our study session. The viral loop strategy, the user-generated content approach, everything. The next day, you presented it to Professor Martinez as your solo project. The truth begins to surface." Nathan exhaled slowly. "My father showed up at my apartment that night. 3 hours after you left." Victoria had not expected that. She turned to face him, curious despite herself. "Richard Pierce does not make social calls," Nathan continued, his voice bitter. "He came because he'd heard I was working with a scholarship student on a major project. He said the Pierce name did not collaborate. We led. He gave me an ultimatum. Present the campaign myself, or he would pull his funding for my final semester." Understanding dawns. Victoria felt her carefully maintained anger waver. "You never told me. How could I?" Nathan looked at her directly for the first time since the door locked. "You worked 3 jobs to pay for school. You fought for every opportunity. And there I was, the trust fund kid whose biggest problem was daddy's expectations. I was ashamed. I convinced myself you'd be better off without me dragging you down into my family drama. So you just took my work and let me think you betrayed me." Victoria's voice cracked slightly. "I presented it, yes. But I told Professor Martinez the truth afterward. I showed him our shared notes, our messages, everything. I took a failing grade for academic dishonesty and redid the entire project alone. You got full credit for the original concept. Memories resurface. Victoria's mind raced back to that semester. She remembered Professor Martinez calling her into his office, praising her innovative thinking. She had assumed he recognized her work on his own. She never knew Nathan had confessed. "You failed that assignment?" she asked quietly. "I failed the entire course," Nathan said. "Had to retake it over summer while working at my father's company. He made sure it was the most miserable 3 months of my life. His way of teaching me a lesson about family loyalty." The storage room suddenly felt even smaller. 6 years of resentment began to crack under the weight of this new information. College days remembered. "I had the biggest crush on you that semester," Victoria admitted before she could stop herself. The words hung in the air between them. "Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'd get to class early just to save the seat next to you. I'd spend hours preparing for our study sessions, pretending I needed more help than I did just to spend time with you." Nathan's expression softened. "I knew." "What?" "Victoria, you were the smartest person in every class. You did not need my help with marketing theory. But I played along because those study sessions were the only time I felt like myself. Not Richard Pierce's son. Not the future CEO of Pierce Industries. Just Nathan, sitting across from a brilliant woman who challenged every idea I had and made me want to be better. The real reason." Victoria sat down on the floor, her back against the metal shelving. The concrete was cold, but her legs felt too shaky to keep standing. Nathan hesitated, then joined her, maintaining a careful distance. "Why did you avoid me after that?" Victoria asked. "Even after the semester ended, you disappeared. No explanation. No goodbye." Nathan rubbed his face with both hands. "Because my father won. He proved that I would sacrifice anything, even someone I cared about, to keep my comfortable life. I hated myself for it. Every time I saw you on campus, I was reminded of what a coward I was. So I avoided you. Graduated early. Took a position in New York. Ran away from the guilt. 6 years of silence. I looked for you at graduation," Victoria confessed. "I had this stupid idea that maybe we could talk, clear the air. I'd practiced this whole speech about forgiveness and moving forward. But you were not there. I could not face you," Nathan said simply. "I've thought about that day 1,000 times. Wondered what you would have said. Wondered if I'd thrown away the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too weak to stand up to my father." The overhead light flickered slightly, casting dancing shadows across the shelves of office supplies. Outside, they could hear muffled sounds of the office continuing without them. Inside, 6 years of misunderstanding slowly dissolved. Present-day confessions. "When I saw your name on the roster for Sterling Media Group 6 months ago, I volunteered to consult on your accounts," Nathan admitted. "I told myself it was professional interest. But really, I just wanted to see you again. See if you'd become the success I always knew you would be. By criticizing everything I do?" Victoria challenged, but her tone lacked its earlier heat. "By keeping my distance," Nathan corrected. "Because being near you and not being able to explain, not being able to apologize, was torture. Today, when you were presenting, I saw that same fire from college. That same brilliance. And I panicked. I fell back into old patterns. Push you away before you can reject me. Hurt you before you discover what a mess I am. The weight of regret." Victoria studied his profile in the dim light. The confident creative director who had walked into the conference room was gone. In his place sat someone vulnerable and honest, carrying 6 years of regret. "Your presentation today was exceptional," Nathan continued quietly. "The influencer strategy was innovative. The data was solid. Everything I said in there was garbage designed to maintain distance. I'm sorry. For today. For college. For all of it. Your father, Victoria said slowly, does he still control your career? Nathan laughed without humor. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack during a board meeting. Ironic, right? I spent my entire life trying to meet his standards, and in the end, he was not there to see any of it. I'm free now. Free to make my own choices. Free to fix my mistakes. If it's not too late. Understanding replaces anger. Victoria felt the last of her anger drain away, replaced by something more complicated. Sadness for the time they lost. Understanding for the pressure he faced. Curiosity about who he had become in the years between. I was so hurt, she said softly. Not just about the campaign, but about losing you. We had something special, even if it was just friendship. When you ghosted me, it confirmed every insecurity I had. That I was not good enough for your world. That our connection was one-sided. It was never one-sided, Nathan said fiercely. You were everything I wanted and everything I was afraid to reach for. You still are. The admission hung between them, heavy with possibility and risk. A question of trust. How do I know this is real? Victoria asked. How do I know you will not run away again when things get complicated? You do not, Nathan admitted. I cannot promise I've changed completely. I'm still working through years of damage my father caused. But I can promise that running away from you again is not an option I will take. Whatever happens when that door opens, I'm not disappearing. Not this time. They sat in silence, processing everything that had been said. The maintenance crew's voices echoed distantly in the hallway, then faded. The building's ventilation system hummed softly. Time seemed suspended in their small room. Beginning to heal. Tell me about New York, Victoria said finally. Tell me about the last 6 years. Help me understand who you became. Nathan's shoulders relaxed slightly. It's not a pretty story. I want to hear it anyway, Victoria said. She shifted slightly, and her shoulder brushed against his. Neither of them moved away. And so Nathan began to talk. About the pressure of living up to his father's legacy. About the relationships that failed because he could not let anyone close. About the therapy that finally helped him understand the damage that had been done. About the slow process of becoming his own person. Victoria listened, and slowly, carefully, the walls between them started to come down. Hours pass in confession. The storage room had become their sanctuary from the outside world. Victoria checked her phone again. Still no signal, but the time showed they had been locked in for nearly 2 hours. 2 hours that felt simultaneously like minutes and like days. Nathan had finished telling her about New York, about the corporate battles and personal struggles. Now it was her turn. She owed him that much honesty. After graduation, I took a job at a small agency in Chicago, Victoria began. I told myself I was building my career, but really I was running too. From the memory of you. From the feelings I never got to express. From the disappointment of how everything ended. Victoria's journey. Nathan listened without interrupting as she continued. I threw myself into work. 60, 70-hour weeks. I won awards. Got promotions. Built a reputation. But I was lonely. Every relationship I tried felt hollow because I kept comparing everyone to you. To what we had during those study sessions. To the connection that felt so real. I did the same thing, Nathan said quietly. Compared everyone to you. Nobody measured up. Victoria smiled sadly. I dated a lawyer for 2 years. Michael. He was kind, successful, everything that should have been right. But when he proposed, I said no. He asked me why, and I could not explain it. How do you tell someone that you're still hung up on a guy from college who broke your heart 6 years ago? The cost of running. My mother kept telling me to move on, Victoria continued. She raised me alone after my father left. She worked double shifts as a nurse to put me through school. She taught me to be strong, to never depend on anyone. When I told her about you, about what happened, she said I was better off. That trust fund boys always choose family money over real love. Nathan flinched at that. She was not wrong. At least not about who I was back then. But here is what I never told anyone, Victoria said, turning to face him fully. The reason I worked so hard, the reason I pushed myself to succeed, was partly because of you. I wanted to prove I was good enough. That the scholarship girl could build something impressive. That maybe if you ever saw me again, you would regret letting me go. Vulnerability meets vulnerability. You did not need to prove anything, Nathan said, his voice rough with emotion. You were always extraordinary. I was the one who was not good enough. I was the one who let my father's expectations matter more than my own heart. We were both young, Victoria said. Both scared. Both trying to survive in different ways. Nathan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he took her hand. His palm was warm, slightly calloused despite his executive position. I've rehearsed this conversation 1,000 times in my head. What I would say if I ever got the chance. But now that we are here, all I can think is that I wasted 6 years we could have had together. The present moment. Victoria looked down at their joined hands. Such a simple gesture, but it felt monumental. Maybe we needed those 6 years. Maybe we had to become who we are now before we could be ready for this. This? Nathan asked, hope evident in his voice. Whatever this is, Victoria said. We are not the same people we were in college. You are not under your father's control anymore. I am not the insecure scholarship student trying to prove her worth. We are both different now. Better? Nathan asked. Different, Victoria repeated. Whether that means better, I guess we will have to find out. Maintenance arrives. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside, closer this time. A voice called out. Maintenance. Anyone in the storage room? Victoria and Nathan looked at each other, and for a moment, neither moved. As if acknowledging the outside world would shatter the fragile understanding they had built in this small space. We are in here, Nathan finally called back. They heard the sound of tools, electronic beeping, and then the blessed click of the lock disengaging. The door swung open, and bright fluorescent light flooded the storage room. A maintenance worker in coveralls stood there with a tablet. Sorry about that. System malfunction triggered the emergency protocol. You folks okay? Returning to reality. Victoria and Nathan stood, their hands separating as they stepped back into the normal world. Rebecca appeared behind the maintenance worker, her face tight with concern and barely concealed frustration. There you two are. The entire department has been worried. What happened? We got locked in during the system malfunction, Nathan said smoothly. We've been trying to signal for help, but there was no cell service. Rebecca's eyes moved between them, clearly sensing that more had transpired than just waiting for rescue. Well, I'm glad you are both safe. Victoria, why don't you take the rest of the day off? We can reschedule your presentation. Actually, Nathan interjected, I think we should continue the presentation now. If Victoria is willing. I have some feedback, but this time I would like to offer it constructively rather than critically. A public apology. Victoria met his gaze. This was his olive branch. His public acknowledgement that he had been wrong. She could refuse, maintain her anger, protect herself from potential hurt. Or she could take the risk. All right, she said. Let's finish this. They walked back to the conference room together. The other analysts looked up as they entered, curiosity and concern evident on their faces. Victoria returned to her position at the front of the room, but this time felt different. This time Nathan was not her adversary. "Before we continue," Nathan said, standing, "I need to apologize to Victoria and to all of you. My feedback earlier was unprofessional and unnecessarily harsh. Victoria's strategy is innovative and well-researched. I let personal issues cloud my judgment, and that was wrong." The room went silent. Executives did not apologize at Sterling Media Group. Especially not consultants from New York. The presentation continues. Victoria clicked back to her first slide, but this time, Nathan's questions were genuine. He asked about her reasoning, offered insights from campaigns he had run, suggested refinements that actually improved her strategy. What had been a battle became a collaboration. By the time she reached her final slide, Victoria's campaign had evolved into something even stronger. The room erupted in applause. Rebecca smiled for the first time all day. "Excellent work, Victoria." "Nathan, thank you for your consultation. I think we have a winning strategy for Luxe Beauty." As the meeting adjourned, colleagues congratulated Victoria. But her attention was on Nathan, who waited by the door. When the room cleared, he approached her. "An invitation." "Coffee?" he asked simply. "There is a shop downstairs. We could talk more. Without the pressure of locked doors or corporate presentations." Victoria gathered her materials slowly, giving herself time to think. This was the moment. She could politely decline, keep their relationship professional, protect her heart from potential pain. Or she could take the leap. "I take mine with cream and 2 sugars now," she said. "I gave up drinking it black after college." Nathan's smile reached his eyes for the first time that day. "I'll remember that." A new beginning. They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence. The coffee shop was busy with the afternoon rush, but they found a small table in the corner. Nathan returned with 2 cups, and they sat across from each other just like they had during those college study sessions. "So what happens now?" Victoria asked, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "I don't know," Nathan admitted. "I fly back to New York tomorrow. But I could extend my stay. Or you could visit. Or we could start with phone calls and texts and see where it goes." "Long distance is hard," Victoria said. "It is," Nathan agreed. "But I've spent 6 years at the wrong kind of distance from you. I'm willing to try if you are." Victoria took a sip of her coffee, letting the warmth spread through her. She thought about the scared college student she had been, the driven professional she had become, and the person she wanted to be going forward. The leap of faith. "I'm terrified," she said honestly. "Terrified that this will fall apart again. That something will come up and you will pull away. That I will get hurt." "I'm terrified too," Nathan said. "Terrified that I will mess this up. That I am not capable of being what you deserve. That I will let my demons win again." "So we are both terrified," Victoria said. "Completely," Nathan confirmed. They looked at each other across the small table, and Victoria felt something shift inside her. Fear was there, yes. But so was possibility. So was hope. So was the same connection that had drawn them together 6 years ago, stronger now for having survived loss and time and misunderstanding. Taking the risk. "Okay," Victoria said. "Let's be terrified together. Let's try this. No running away this time. For either of us." Nathan reached across the table, palm up. "An invitation. A promise." Victoria placed her hand in his. "No running away," he agreed. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Outside, the city continued its busy rhythm. Inside the coffee shop, 2 people who had lost each other years ago began to find their way back. It would not be easy. There would be challenges, distance, old wounds that needed healing. But for the first time in 6 years, both Victoria and Nathan felt something they had not allowed themselves to feel. Hope. Real, fragile, precious hope. The door they had been locked behind had opened. Now they were choosing to walk through a different door together. One that led not to the past, but to a future they would build side by side. The promise. As they left the coffee shop, Nathan turned to Victoria. "Thank you for giving me another chance. For listening. For being brave enough to trust again." "Thank you for telling the truth," Victoria replied. "For staying. For fighting for this." They stood on the sidewalk as people rushed past them. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, they had each other and the truth between them. And sometimes, that was enough to start building something real. "Dinner?" Nathan asked. Victoria smiled. "I know a place." They walked together into the evening, leaving behind 6 years of regret and stepping into something new. Something honest. Something worth the risk. The storage room had trapped them physically, but it had set them free emotionally. And that freedom was just the beginning. The end.